Democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and in general have been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their death. John Adams stated, "Democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself." There was never a democracy that did not commit suicide. Violence and contention sounds a lot like politics today. Americans, young and old, are used to living in a passive democracy. But the fact of the matter is that the United States is a republic, not a democracy. We no longer understand what a republic is and how to live in one. Even if we do recognize that America is a republic, we treat it like a democracy by focusing only on winning elections and fighting the battles of partisan issues. Just like James Madison said, turbulence and contention. For most people, the only involvement they have in our republic is voting. Voting is a democracy action. While we certainly should cast an informed vote, if that is our only involvement, then the result will be democracy, not republic. This is understandable because our human nature is to gravitate toward either democracy or monarchy. Let me share with you an experience that I had in observing human nature as it relates to our relationship with society. Last semester, my American history teacher, Mrs. Denton, created a simulation paralleling American history. On the first day of class, she made it very clear that our class was under what she called teacher's rules. Mrs. Denton instituted a series of rules that soon became very unfair and unreasonable. For example, the color of shirt that you were wearing was reflected in your grade that day. Every day there was a chosen color of shirt. If you were wearing that shirt color, then you had to complete your in-class work for yourself, and another person could give you their work to do as well. As our class studies approached the signing of the Declaration of Independence, I got really tired of these rules. I decided to rebel, but in a peaceful manner, because I needed a good grade in that class, which I could only get from her. Another rule that Mrs. Denton created stated that we had to address her by Your Majesty. I got tired of addressing her in this way and sent her an email with a question on a homework assignment where I purposely addressed her as Mrs. Denton, not Your Majesty. I signed the email Lane Norton and simply put the following quote from John Locke. "Whenever the executive endeavored to reduce the people to slavery under arbitrary power, they put themselves into a state of war with the people, who are thereupon absolved from any further obedience, and are left to the common refuge which God hath provided for all men against force and violence." I wanted to make it known that I recognized my unalienable rights, and that I no longer recognized Mrs. Denton's authority as a queen, but that I still respected her as a teacher. I devised a plan to get my colony and other colonies to declare our independence and sign an agreement. One thing that really surprised me was who agreed to this. Soft-spoken people who I would have never imagined would disobey the class rules were so willing to help. But people who I thought would jump on board in a second were afraid of their grade dropping. I started to get many people on board, but I did not have enough support from the whole class. So I asked Andrew, one of my classmates, to help me. Andrew got a lot more colonies to declare their independence. I sent an email to Mrs. Denton stating that I had been chosen as an ambassador to keep peaceful relations between our new country and Her Majesty's kingdom. I sent this email as if no political union had ever existed between us, and we had always been our own country. I addressed her as Your Majesty in respect for her position, but not as one of her subjects. I sent her the following. Some of the colonies have formed an alliance, and from here on out, we would like to be known as Congress. I've been appointed as the first ambassador to build a friendly relationship with Her Majesty's government and Congress. Sincerely, Ambassador Lane. She responded saying that she would be happy to talk to us about independence and was fully supportive of our decision to self-govern. The next class period, she said that we could be free if we wrote and unanimously signed a declaration declaring our independence and complete an in-class assignment. The next class period, we had to choose a chairman for our convention. Both Andrew and I were nominated. Andrew won, which I was fine with because I felt like we had built a respectful relationship and he would listen to my ideas. To divide the work in half and do it efficiently, Andrew divided the class. Half worked on the declaration and half worked on the class assignment. He purposely assigned me to the class assignment and himself to the declaration. Trusting in his judgment, I helped with the class assignment. My group finished early and I started listening and watching what was happening. Andrew started to become what he hated most, a tyrant. He shut down people's thoughts and told them they were stupid and made people conform to his ideas. I then realized that he had me work on the in-class assignment because he did not want the competition. He wanted it done his way. After 2 class periods, we got the declaration signed and we were now a free country. As a new country, we needed to establish a constitution. A chairman of the class constitutional convention needed to be chosen. Both Andrew and I were nominated once again, and I ended up winning by a majority. As the new class president, I knew exactly how I wanted to lead the class. As we started to have discussions, I noticed that the class was getting really crazy and talkative. Then I realized why. Just like the founding fathers did when writing the Articles of Confederation, I was leaning too far towards anarchy. When coming out of an oppressive circumstance and fear to keep your freedom alive, it is natural to fall towards the opposite extreme. Another thing that I noticed about myself was that I was looking for special privileges and wanted everyone to acknowledge that I was their leader. I could feel the tug of wanting more and more control. After ratifying the class constitution, John, a close friend of Andrew, was elected as the class president. I was disappointed that I was not elected and felt entitled to the presidency. There went that tug toward control again. We went about 2 months being governed by this constitution. As we were approaching our class final, Andrew proposed a law to Congress that made John the king of our history class. The law passed, and now my class was back to where it started, with a monarch. I was really intrigued that my history class went from monarchy to a republic back to monarchy. I observed the human nature in many people. For example, John, who wanted to separate from the monarch only to become the dictator himself. And I even felt the same natural tendency within myself. So how do we overcome this human nature? Thomas Jefferson said, "The qualifications for self-government are not innate. They are the result of habit and long training." Jefferson himself needed practice keeping the republic, and so do we. Just like John, Andrew, and I felt the tug of wanting more control, Human instincts interfere with our desire to be a republic, lest we fall back into the natural tendency of democracy or monarchy. In only 3 years, I can go to college and live on my own. I want to inherit a republic for myself, my children, and my grandchildren. This is a republic if you can keep it through habit and long training. I would love to take credit for my observations on human nature during our class simulation. But during the simulation, I was coincidentally taking classes with the Center for Self-Governance. CSG is an organization that teaches civics like none other. CSG is dedicated to training citizens in applied civics, founded on the belief in the capacity of mankind for self-governance. CSG builds individual habit and practice in self-governance to grow a culture and cultivate a community of keeping the republic all over the United States. Through a series of classes and training exercises, the Center for Self-Governance's curriculum helps students build relationships with people inside and outside of government, helps them understand the United States Constitution, their own state constitution, and their local systems of government without being bipartisan or issue-focused. The choices that I made during my American history simulation were focused by CSG training, or influenced by CSG training. The Center for Self-Governance's training helped me spot human behaviors of monarchy, oligarchy, democracy, and anarchy. They showed me why it was fairly easy for my class to go from a republic to a monarchy in a heartbeat. Through all 5 levels of classes and the training exercises that go along with them, a student learned how to engage in and live in a republic. The approach that CSG takes on teaching civics is very unique. With a close analysis of the Founding Fathers' writings, the Center for Self-Governance's curriculum is very articulate and refined. They actually teach you how to live in a republic. The training exercises reinforce what is learned in class. Through the experiences of doing the training, I have built trusted relationships with the administrators at my high school, city and state officials, and have had many great conversations with my friends and adults alike. There are active teams and classes in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, and many other states all over the nation. Visit their website at centerforselfgovernance.com.
I don't want to watch the video. I want to watch the real thing, so sometimes I lose track of the video.
If not, contact CSG and host a class yourself. I know you'll be amazed at how much you learn and how effective the training will be in your life. Keeping the republic takes practice every day, from young and old, black and white, male and female. The Center for Self-Governance gives the tools to keep the republic, because this is a republic if you can keep it. Thank you.
Can you imagine all the fun, great discussions I have with this young lady? Fantastic. Thank you, Lane. Center for Self-Governance, great.